you don't like this show. I mean, come on. You don't really like it. Not nearly as much as you let on. So, full disclosure, aside from the clickbaity title, I don't really have a horse in this race. I think the show is middling at best from a quality level, but some of you guys out there are so vitriolic that it makes me think you probably didn't even get this far in the video before hammering out your angry comments. And while I could easily level this torpedo at any of the other Gundam series easily enough, this one is a big whale on the horizon. Apparently I've got nautical terms on the brain today. Anyway, out the gate, I don't give a crap about G Gundam. I don't like it very much. But if you like it, then that's fine. If you know it's stupid and kind of shitty, then this is not going to be anything you don't already know. If that's what brings you to it, then fine, you're not the target here. However, if you think that G Gundam is somehow the best, and also that Gundam Build Fighters is some sort of betrayal of what Gundam stands for, you're the kind of dribbling moron person that I'm aiming at. Yes, this is aimed at the kind of paint huffers who think that it's the best Gundam ever made and make me wonder if they're let outside without security personnel to keep the general populace safe. But at the same time, there are some actual editorial arguments that can be made about it, and I think they need to be put to screen. So here we go, here's my first statement. You don't like this show. Not really. If you're the sort that gets Gundam, you appreciate it maybe as an oddity, but you don't really love it that much. Sure, Gundam sometimes drags and mopes about when thinking about warfare and politicking, but that's what Gundam does. G Gundam is a super robot show where a man who has more in common with Koji Kabuto than Amuro Ray unga bungas his way through a tournament and accidentally saves the universe because he just really wants to fuck his pit crew. You know this deep down. Watching it, seeing these characters interact in this stale, rehashed Koji and Sayaka with a sloppy coat of paint sort of way, you know what this show is. Or maybe you don't, I just blew your fucking mind. Statement number 2. It's not a Gundam show, and that's fine. If you don't like Gundam and you like G, it probably makes sense for whatever reason. You probably just like super robot shows. But if you claim to love Gundam and G is your favorite, maybe you don't really like Gundam all that much. This is shonen battle anime, and it's not what Gundam was created to do. G Gundam is the un-Gundam. It is the exact opposite of everything that Gundam means and was made for. Number 3. This is a super robot show. That's not what Gundam is about. Gundam was created to tell a story that hadn't been told before. It was a reflection of the way World War II ended for Japan and the feelings it had shaken loose in the generation after it. G Gundam is a show where a very Japanese hero gets to punch every other country in the face and wave his big swinging katana around, because he's the hot-blooded protagonist and he gets the spotlight, even if he's very serious and broody out of the cockpit. At the end of the day, he still does his special move, gets his screamy loud moment, and the bad guy blows up. The difference between the Shining Finger and Mazinger Z's Breastfire is that one moves closer than the other. Super robots do not effectively tell a Gundam-worthy story. This is a Gundam story without teeth and without the political punch that makes Gundam shows last the test of time. 4. They got a bunch of super robot dudes on the production crew. The thing about Yasuhiro Imagawa's work is that he's a great super robot director. Giant Robo, Get a Robo Armageddon, Tetsujin 28 Go 2004, Mazinger Z Impact Edition, all supremely fine examples of the super robot genre. He's not a real robot director. Yes, he's worked on a few real robot shows before, with Tomino, incidentally, but that's not where his passion lies. That's not where his skill lies. Sure, wanting to make something different is important, but if they were gonna make something this different, just make it a new IP. The energy would have been better directed in original work that is wasted on the show that shouldn't have super robot elements at all. Imagawa says that it's his Gundam and that he's proud of it, and while that's great, it missed entirely the point of the franchise as a whole. His uniqueness would have been better served elsewhere. Here's the thing. Gundam at that point had become established. We knew what Gundam meant, what Gundam was supposed to do by the time that this show came out. And G Gundam decided not to do that. So they took some sort of weird, wacky-ass tournament fighter, the thing that was super popular at the time, and slapped Gundam's name on it. Gundam should do its Gundam thing. That's what it's good at. Number 5. It has shit robot designs. If you're going to make a show where the point is to sell model kits, the robots in question had better look memorable, not like something a primary school class created with an old encyclopedia and a bunch of crayons. Now, 2 of the Gundam designs were created by younger fans and made into the show, but you know, the Skull Gundam and the Ashura Gundam both look like they belong in this series. It's the ones that were designed by real-ass mecha designers that look like shit on toast. Master Gundam has Yoda ears and weird bulges on the shoulder. There's a fish Gundam, a windmill Gundam, a Gundam that rides a boat, one with a tall hat and a long rifle, a fucking horse, a clown. It's embarrassing that these mooks that wouldn't even stand up to a Leo in a fight get to be Gundam-class mobile suits. Number 6. It's racist as fuck. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of very smart people, capital V, capital S, capital P, who are going to bitch about this point, but let's talk about something called essentialism. In historiography, essentialism is breaking down a culture into certain characteristics by which all people of a single culture can be understood. This sometimes leads to a positive claim of a national identity. Oftentimes not. It's usually racist. Breaking down someone's entire ethnic group into a couple of base traits is still a function of racism and should be avoided because it also dehistoricizes the process of social and cultural change and tends to see non-Western societies as historically unchanging. It is a function of what's called covert racism and factors into laissez-faire racism in that it categorizes culture as superior or inferior based on certain traits. That's a racism. On a more insanely overtly racist point, Neo-Kenya represents all of Africa outside of Egypt. It's got a zebra print robe, a Zulu spear and shield. The Zulus lived in South Africa. Kenya is several hundred kilometers north. What's the opposite of dog whistle racism? Because this is it. Oh, and Neo-Egypt has the Pharaoh Gundam, 3,000 years of Egyptian history, and you couldn't come up with a Set Gundam or an Osiris Gundam at the very least. Neo-Greece has the Zeus Gundam, no question. Glad to see that's the only thing they did, aside from the Spartans or the Athenians or anything else. Neo-Canada doesn't even have a Gundam that relates to their native population, but rather their cutting down of trees ability. Well, at least they got America right. It's a loud, obnoxious pile of bullshit with pistols and a football helmet and mommy issues. At this point, I'm fucking floored that the Tequila Gundam didn't shout "Andale, andale, yeehaw, yeehaw!" before it went into battle. Some people hail this stuff as brilliant, and I say it's playing into xenophobia and stereotyping out the ass. And on a more serious note, do people really like this stinker because it's quote-unquote apolitical and it's just a story about some ubermensch stomping all over the other nations of the world? Because it sure as hell looks that way, and that's some weird shit y'all are into if that's the case. So now that I've gone nuclear for a hot minute, let me try and head a few common rebuttals off of the pass here. Yeah, I know Tamino gave Imagawa his blessing on the show, but let's consider a few things. It was his protege, his bouncing baby boy, doing this work. You really think Tamino was going to shit all over his lad's work on this one, even if he didn't agree with it? I've never gotten the sense that Tamino is the type to rock the boat in that way. He usually goes after the suits more than the creatives. Even if Tamino hated it, he was still going to give his blessing to it out of professional courtesy. Besides, it's not like he doesn't have some real stinkers under his belt, too. Saying it's not racist is pretty much shot below the waterline by a couple of points I made already. Now, that's not to say that you're racist if you like it, but the show is. And there are volumes that I'm sure have been written already that explains the Japanese people's tenuous grasp on portraying other cultures in media, but I am not the place for it. Saying that reboots need to change things up a lot has also been shown to be very, very false by the denizens of the internet, if Thundercats Roar or the Warhammer Adventures books are any indication. Some people have said that it is less derivative of previous Gundam shows, and I would say that it's more derivative of Robot Jocks and less inspired by good ideas. This show has more to do with Power Rangers than it does any previous real robot show, and that should be a big red flag. But you know what? It's okay. You don't like this show. Not really. Or if you do, you like it because it spoon feeds you mush, and you don't have to chew anything hard like the other Gundam shows make you do. That's okay. We all need to eat soup sometimes. But G Gundam is the chicken fingers on the fancy restaurant menu. It's not what you should probably be there for, and if that's your idea of haute couture, you're in the wrong fucking restaurant, Mac. And if all that wasn't enough to dissuade you from thinking that G Gundam is the best Gundam ever made, well, maybe you just don't like Gundam that much. And it's okay. You don't have to like Gundam all that much. As far as I'm concerned, G Gundam is a super robot show with a weird Gundam coat of paint on it that would have been best served as its own IP. But in spite of all these words that I've said, I'm sure it's still going to net me lots of mean and probably illegal comments on this video and on my Twitter and all that stuff. So if you like what you saw, please stick around, like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. That being said, this is Professor Otaku, the greatest American anime critic, signing off.